Ooh, I am so tired, honey. I'm exhausted. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Um, Let me put these comments up here. Okay, so I'm getting better at this StreamYard situation. Even though I don't really feel like StreamYard, I don't know. I'll just leave that. Okay, so all right. So look, I'm very late. I know I said that I was gonna go live at about 10:30. It's now 12 o'clock. I'm playing myself because I do have to get up in the morning, but I didn't want to go to sleep without doing the live and just sort of, getting into some things. I, had mentioned before that I did want to kind of go in depth as to like exactly what happened today. So, full transparency, I got there like a little bit after the verdict was read, the initial verdict was read. And I'm so upset with myself because, needless to say, my intention was to get up there before that. But I just knew, okay, that they were going to read that verdict like after 12 o'clock. Okay. This is one of the things that I'm learning, just look, I'm just like learning this like on my own, this whole situation, just learning on my own. So, I will never make that mistake again, assuming that a jury will, reach a verdict at a specific time. I just thought that, they were at like this impasse, right? Yesterday. So today, they really just took an hour to deliberate, and come to a conclusion as to, what they were going to do with the RICO. So I learned. But anyway, make a long story short, I did get up there, like literally, like not like I want to say 20 minutes after the verdict was read. Okay. So I'm gonna refer to a couple other news outlets for what happened before I got there. Okay, to just kind of give you an idea of you know what happened, and then I will get into what happened after I got there in my specific notes and stuff like that. I will tell you that today was crazy. Listen, I always say that about every single day that I'm up there, but today was especially crazy. The tensions were high. People were yelling and screaming at each other outside of the courthouse. You can't do that in the courthouse because, honey, them court marshals are not having the court officers and all of them. They're just not having it. They're not having it. So there's no kind of thing like that inside, with the exception of the MTA lady who was physically removed from the court that day that she was in the main courtroom yelling and screaming. But and I'm pretty sure everybody knows by now, there a verdict has been reached, right? And Diddy was found guilty on just two of the five charges. Okay, so it's not as cut and dry as people may think, um, and I think that we still kind of have a ways to go. All right, I really, really do think that we still have a ways to go. Okay, so I'm going to get into. Uh, I'm going to refer to CNN for right this moment. Okay, so this is before I got there. All right. So they just basically talk about, Diddy's family arriving to the courthouse, and stuff like that. His mom and stuff like that arriving to the courthouse. Um, and this is a thing also. I'm going to just say this really quickly. The mood in prosecutors are incompetent POS. The mood yesterday, the mood yesterday at the courthouse or inside of the court was completely different to how the mood was today, but then it kind of switched again. Okay. Yesterday, the mood was very, very somber. Okay. The mood was extremely somber, and it was just very, very, very somber. Today, it was more upbeat. Okay. It was more upbeat. Um, but then it turned back somber again. Okay. It definitely turned back somber again. And yeah, so let me get into this really quickly. Hold on. I was looking at my granddaughter's um tablet, but I don't think it's a good idea for me to use that. Give me one quick second. Hold on a second. Give me one quick second. Okay, so I'm sorry. Give me one second. One second. One second. One second. Oof. Okay, so at about 9:50 something, 9:52 or 9:53, the judge received a note from the jury, right? And they basically let him know that they have reached a verdict. Okay, so remember, he was charged with 5 different counts. Okay, 5 different counts. The first count was that the dreaded RICO charge. Okay, and he was acquitted on that charge. He was acquitted on that charge. And from what I understand, speaking with people who were, there and stuff like that, the vibe was like insane. People were like yelling and screaming in the overflow room, not necessarily the main courtroom. I think there probably was like a reaction in the main courtroom, but from what I understand and from what I know from actually being in the main courtroom, that one time I was in the main courtroom, the judge is not, having that. Okay, they don't even let you really like, you know leave out to go use the restroom like that back and forth. Like, you cannot make a whole lot of noise in the courtroom. So I'm pretty sure that it wasn't crazy, but I know in the overflow room people were losing their minds. Okay, so he was found guilty on essentially 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, okay, and acquitted on the SEX trafficking, okay, and also acquitted on that first charge, which was the RICO, okay. So then after that, basically, Mark Agnifilo immediately addressed, the court and was like, look, please, let him come out. Okay. He should come out because, with those 2 lesser charges, he was trying to make the argument that he should be able to come out. Okay. Hold on one second. Let me just read back here. All right. So it says that Sean Diddy Combs was sitting with his hands clasped in his lap when the reading of the verdict began. When not guilty was announced for the racketeering conspiracy charge, he put his head in his hand. He did a subtle fist pump when not guilty was announced for the second of the 2 SEX trafficking charges, the last of the most serious charges to be read. When a deputy polled the jurors about whether the verdict read in court was correct, Combs craned his neck to look at them. After defense attorney Mark Agnifilo argued in favor of releasing Combs prior to the sentencing, the judge asked, Mr. Combs does not want to go back to the MDC. This is a reference to the place where he's being housed, which is over here in Brooklyn, downtown Brooklyn. So Combs vigorously nodded his head no and made prayer hands like please don't send me back there. Okay. So this was 12 hours ago. Okay. Let me keep going. So then, let me keep going. Hold on one second. Bear with me. Okay. So, child. Okay. So, so after that, Mark Agnifilo was just like, look, we want to do like $1 million bail situation. And the judge was like $1 million. And he was like, yeah, he should be able to come out, blah, blah, blah. And basically, the judge was like, okay, let's we'll negotiate, let me think about it. So at 1 o'clock, they were supposed to come back. Okay. At 1 o'clock, they were supposed to come back. By this time, I had already been there and stuff like that. And, uh, it was pushed to 1:30. Then after 1:30 rolled around, we were just sitting there waiting, waiting, waiting. And then all of a sudden, somebody said, one of the court marshals or whatever, court officers, kind of like, gave word that, that I'm hearing that it's going to be 5 o'clock. So I was thinking like 5 o'clock, like, what are we going to do up until then? So it eventually came down that it was definitely going to be 5 o'clock. So, the court officers were like, look, y'all, you guys got to get out of the courtroom. You can, go hang out in the cafeteria or go hang out wherever, but you can't stay inside of the courtroom, which is weird to me. Mud, you said free Diddy? So more oil. Okay. Anyway, so a bunch of us, at first I was a little apprehensive about leaving the courthouse because I was thinking like, okay, what are my thoughts on Judge Subramaniam? Why is he so mean to Diddy and didn't give him bail? Listen, do I think he'll get jail time? Yeah. So this is the thing, right? I keep seeing people like saying that about the judge, and he really, really was not mean to him throughout the trial. He really, really was not. He absolutely was not. He was like super fair. There were a lot of things that the prosecution wanted to get in there and was not able to, and vice versa. Like I feel like I'm not going to say that he went out of his way to be fair, but he was really, really fair throughout the trial. Okay. He just was. Okay. And I'm going to get into exactly what he said later on, as to the reason why he decided to not give him bail. Okay. Or bond, whatever you want to call it. Okay. So we were all kind of like apprehensive, like, Dag, should we even leave the courthouse? But then it was just like so long, because by the time we left out of there, it was like 2 o'clock. So we was just like, Dag, what are we going to do for 3 hours? So I did go outside for a bit because I spoke with one of the court officers, and they were like, yeah, no, I wasn't a juror. I wouldn't be able to speak on the case. Wait, maybe by now, because the verdict is over. So I guess by now the jurors are going to be able to speak. And I'm pretty sure like they're going to be doing some interviews and stuff like that. So I'm waiting for that. And I definitely will discuss that once that happened. So yeah, we were just like, Dag, should we leave? Blah, blah, blah. So then I did leave because I spoke with a couple of court officers and marshals and stuff like that. And they were like, no, you can leave and come back. Don't worry about it. So I went live on TikTok and stuff and just kind of like hung out by the courthouse and stuff like that. It was a madhouse. People were really, 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 really excited about that verdict. Okay. And I'm not going to lie, right? I feel like the verdict itself was a loss for the prosecution. I don't know how long he's going to get. Am I right? He got 3 not guilty and 2 guilty. Yes, Lisa, you're right. I think it was a loss for the prosecution in that they really wanted that RICO charge for a bunch of reasons. Okay. They wanted it for a bunch of reasons and they didn't get it. Okay. So do I feel like the defense got a win as far as getting him off of that RICO charge? Yes. Yes. They really did. Because if he would have gotten charged with that RICO charge, he would have automatically probably never have gotten home ever. So at least now there's a chance that he will get like a lighter sentence and, see the light of day in a few years or something like that. But if he was charged, with the 3 that he was, Night Owl, you're asking what are the 3 that it's the 2 that they charged him with. He was acquitted of 3 and charged with 2. The 2 that he was charged with was transportation to engage in prostitution. And I know that's just a corny way of saying it, but I don't want to get restricted over here. And that actually happened to me earlier today. So I got to be real careful. I don't want to get restricted because I'm going to have to leave out and then come back into the live. So I got to be real careful. But anyway, So those were the two that he got charged with. But listen to this, okay? So again, I think it was a loss for the prosecution in that regard because they really wanted that RICO, okay? They really, really did. However, he was still found guilty on those two charges, okay? And he was still found guilty on those two charges. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, let me continue, okay? Let me continue. So it says, remember, Combs was found guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engaged in P, right? And acquitted of the most serious charges of racketeering, conspiracy, and SEX trafficking, 1 count of which directly pertained to Ventura. I was actually surprised that he was acquitted on that other charge. I really, really was surprised, but you know, it is what it is, right? CNN here is talking about what happened outside of the courthouse. It was real, real crazy, pandemonium. There was this guy, this content creator who's been out there pretty much since the beginning, and he had 2 bottles of baby oil, honey. And he wanted to talk all of a sudden. Yes, he did. And you know, people were asking when Mark Agnifilo was outside of the courthouse later on. They were like, "Well, what is it that he wanted to say?" But he never got to speak. He just never got to speak. So I was interested in hearing what he wanted to say too. But I guess they did. It just didn't happen. So yeah, child. So he was out there with 2 bottles of baby oil, squirting it onto another content creator. And it says remnants from the oil could be seen on the courthouse pavement. Okay, so they were just out there just wilding out. I don't know if you guys saw the footage of that, but that was crazy. Okay, that was really, really crazy. So that was that. So now we're still waiting. To be able to get back into the courthouse, and then eventually we did go back into the courthouse. I tried to make sure that I got there. I tried to make sure that I got there at like around 4:00 because I wanted to get a good seat in the overflow room. Even though it's not the main courtroom, I still wanted to be close to the monitor because if you're close to the monitor, it's like you can really see everything really, really clearly. Like you can see him, you know, it's different from being in the main courtroom because if you're in the main courtroom, you're really kind of looking at the back of everyone's head. So when you're in the overflow room, the monitor is very, very large. If you're sitting right in front of the monitor, you can see everyone clearly. Diddy, everybody sitting there very, very clearly. So I was able to get into that first row. And, you know, so we're there waiting. It's 5 o'clock comes and goes. Okay. I want to say at about maybe 5:10, 5:15, they came back and they reconvened. Okay. And by, you know, this time, I'm not going to even hold you. Okay. I really, really, really believed that Diddy was going to like get bond today. I did. I was thinking that he'll be released and put on probation because he had the dream team kind of lawyers. But he wasn't released though. He wasn't released. Okay. I really, really did believe that he was. I really, truly believe that he was. I don't know why I was feeling like he really was like that, but you know why I'm going to tell you the reason why I felt like that. Because when Mark Agnifilo first like proposed the idea of him leaving, the judge was like, so, you know, like $1 million, that's what you're proposing? And he was like, yeah. So it was really looking like the judge was like seriously considering letting him out. Okay. So anyway, now we're back in. So I'm just going to refer to my notes now. Okay. Because by this time I'm there. All right. So it was, like I said, it was a completely different mood than yesterday. And, you know, completely different mood. Everybody was like real upbeat, you know, and in the row that I was sitting, there were like a bunch of Diddy supporters in the front row with me. And the person who was sitting to the right of me, though, I couldn't really call it, but the people who were directly to the left of me were absolutely staunch Diddy supporters. One gentleman that was in the row with me with somebody who was outside literally yelling and screaming at people who he interpreted as being anti-Diddy. You know what I mean? People who were not Diddy supporters. You think you saw me on Armand Wiggins Live? Yeah, you probably did see me there. Um, people were sending me stuff like from the shade room and stuff like, catching glimpse. Everybody was filmed. There was so many people that were just on camera. So yeah, you most likely did see me and stuff like that over there. So he was yelling and screaming. He yelled at a few people. He yelled at Touré. Okay. I don't know if you guys know who Touré is, but he yelled at him because he basically was saying that, he didn't like him because he didn't like Touré's coverage, because Touré is very, very anti-Diddy, like, you know what I mean? So he didn't like Touré's coverage of, what he was doing. So he was like yelling at him, and he was yelling at a couple of people. But that just goes to show you like how high the tensions were. You know what I mean? If you're not following me, by the way, give me a follow here on TikTok. Okay, don't forget to do that. All right, thank you so much. All right, so listen, the judge enters and stuff like that, and he's talking, and he mentions various third parties letters, right, that he received, and he's starts to talk about his reasoning for how he's going to make his decision. And then listen to me, when he said, I'm making the decision that Diddy's, he didn't say Diddy, but Mr. Combs' bail is denied, there was an audible gasp in the courtroom. I literally did this with my hand, and I was looking at the monitor, and Diddy was sitting there like looking down, and he was, I guess, like writing something, and he was like kind of waiting for the what he was going to say. And as soon as he said denied, Diddy looked up and did like that. He was completely shocked. He was completely shocked. Like he really, really, really did not think that he was going to get that bail denied. Okay. A letter was sent by Cassie's attorney stating that Diddy was in danger due to the DV. Yes, a letter was stated. I'm gonna get the letter, and I'm gonna read it really quickly. And there was also a letter from, not only a letter by Cassie, but also a letter from the gentleman Deontay Nash. Remember, Deontay Nash is the one who witnessed the when Diddy had that altercation with Cassie, and she hit her head on the bedpost, and you guys saw the photo of her. There was like a huge chunk missing out of her face, and he testified that she began to leak. I'm going to say the word leak because I don't want to say other stuff and get kicked off. But even after the presence of that leaking, he still continued to put his hands on her and stuff like that. So this is that particular witness. So those are the two people who wrote victim impact statements, right? Now, a lot of people, I was speaking to people, and they said that they really believe that those letters were pre-written. You know what I mean? Because they were like, but here's the thing. It's very, very common for people to, have that sort of, write that sort of thing. Okay. This is not anything new. People, write victim impact statements all the time. And it's just not anything new. You know what I'm saying? So the judge didn't like his behavior in court during the trial either. Well, so this is the thing. He was only reprimanded one time because he was sort of kind of like, nodding and looking at the jury and stuff like that. And yesterday when he was there, well, this is separate, but he definitely was looking at the jury, but he wasn't looking at the jury like in a bad way or anything like that. Previously, he had been looking over at the jury. Now, although I'm in, I was in the overflow room the majority of the time, with the exception of that one time that I was in the main courtroom, he definitely was looking at the jury several times. I can tell you, not only me, but you can tell that he's looking at the jury because the jury is here, and you could see him looking directly at the jury, sort of like nodding and like making kind of face and stuff like that. And I think he kind of was trying it, and then over time he just kept doing it, and it's just like, okay, well, I'm just getting away with it, so I'm just going to continue to do it. And then eventually the judge that day snapped, and you could tell the judge was like really, really pissed because it was something that had been going on, and it's I think he just was just like, is he really going to keep doing this? So he got real mad and was like, no, you're not supposed to do that or whatever. Okay, so for every nod, it was $1 million payoff. Jay-Z is just as bad. Cassie has enough money, she can hire security guards. The jury didn't believe all of them. I don't think that the jury believed all of them. I don't think that the jury believed all of them. I do not. Okay, I do not. So, all right. So I want to go to the letter. Okay, I want to go to the letter, the impact statement that was written, okay, by Cassie's lawyer on behalf of Cassie. I'm going to go to that, okay, and let me see if I can get my hands on Deontay Nash's letter as well. I want to read this to you because I'm going to get into specifically what the judge said, and then you can make the determination as to what you think. If you think that these letters had any type of impact on his decision to deny Diddy bond. Okay. So let me go back. All right. So let's see here. Sure. Give me 1 second. 1 quick second. So I'm sorry. Just give me 1 quick second. Bear with me. Bear with me. Bear with me. I know you guys probably want to kill me right now. Give me 1 quick second. Oh, and on a side note, there was a civil case, right? There was a civil case that was with Diddy, and this person was a male by the name of Joseph Rose, and that case was dismissed. And Diddy has a ton of civil cases, okay, that are pending. I truly believe that that's going to be the outcome of a lot of these cases. I think a ton of them are going to be dismissed. Now, this particular case was dismissed without prejudice, so they can come back and try to do whatever. But I just think people talk about how much trouble he's in and stuff like that. As it relates to these civil cases and stuff like that. But I do truly believe that a ton of these cases are just going to get thrown out. Okay. All right. So this is the first letter here. This is from Cassie Ventura's lawyer. So it says, we write as counsel for Cassandra Ventura to respectfully request that the court deny Mr. Combs to be released pending his sentencing on his 2 convictions under 18 USC 2421, pursuant to the Bail Reform Act 18 USC 1343. I don't know any of that, but I'm just reading what's said here. They're basically saying that detention is mandatory post-conviction on these charges, and Ms. Ventura believes that Mr. Combs is likely to pose a danger to the victims who testified in this case, including herself, as well as the community. We thank the court for its time and attention to this matter. Okay. So that was the letter for uh, Cassie. Okay. And give me, I'll get my hands on the letter from Deontay Nash, but it's more of the same. Okay. Jury was fair. They did good. Did he get life? No, he didn't get life. He hasn't been sentenced yet. Okay. So now, when the judge said, okay, that his bond is denied, and I said that Diddy looked shocked, like he truly looked shocked. Everybody was like gasping, like gagging. The judge, the defense, the judge said that the defense conceded prior behavior, okay, and basically said that, remember when the defense was giving their closing argument, one of the things that Mark Agnifilo said is, we own it. Basically saying that we own the fact that Diddy is a violent person. Okay. They said we own it. And when I tell you, the judge used every single one of Mark Agnifilo's words against him. Okay. Every single one of his words against him. It's like he was just reading just from the freaking transcript. Okay. So he was like, yeah, we own it. And he was just like, saying that DV is the issue. Okay. Because remember, Mark Agnifilo was saying that DV is the issue. And remember, he's not being charged with DV. Okay. But Mark Agnifilo, like, is admitting to that. The fact that he, did engage in DV. Right. And Mark Agnifilo also said that the video that we witnessed, the CNN video, was very much DV. Okay. The judge said that it's impossible to prove that he poses no danger to the community. One of the other things that the judge said, that he knew he was under investigation, right? He knew that when they raided his house and all of that stuff like that, he knew that he was under investigation for sex trafficking. When they found him, okay, when they arrested him and he was in New York, he was setting up for an FO, which meant that he would have been engaging in the same illegal activity, with an escort, okay? And, you can make the argument whether or not, sex work and things like that should be legal, but they're not in New York, right? Or in California, okay? So the judge was like, look, he was like literally in the middle of trying to plan an FO, knew he was under investigation, and still decided to engage in that activity. I was always wondering, if you're not following me on TikTok, please follow me. Don't forget to do that, please. Okay. Listen, I was wondering why, okay? I was wondering why, or not even why. Well, I was wondering why he was still doing that when he knew he was going to get arrested. But I wanted to know who the person was that he was going to invite for the FO. Guess who he contacted for that FO? Remember when we saw all of that, those photos and stuff like that from the hotel? Guess who he was inviting to the FO? They said it in court today. Y'all gotta guess. You gotta guess. You gotta guess. You gotta guess. I know I can't believe Sean Combs turned into an addict either. Back in the day, he was not on substances like that. He definitely was not back in the day, like years and years back. And I believe that a big part of the reason why he, ended up doing the crazy stuff he was doing is as a result of the substances. Don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming the substances on everything, but I think that they didn't help. Okay. No, the person who he was trying to contact or was in the process of contacting for the FO was Jane. This is the person that he was trying to contact for the FO. Okay. So he talks about the situation in June of 2024 when he was violent, right? And this was just last year. And he reiterated that it's impossible for him to show that he poses no danger to the community. Jane is the Jane Doe that testified during the trial. Okay. But he literally was in the process of doing the same illegal activity. And remember, what makes it illegal is the fact that he has the the escort coming, he's paying for these services. People are willing participants, but at the end of the day, it's not legal, right? And you're under investigation. I just don't think it was smart for him to do that at that time. It just didn't. It just made it seem like he wasn't taking this seriously. And then there was a ton of substances too. But he was an addict at that point. You know what I'm saying? He was definitely an addict. So it's just like but I just didn't. It didn't look good. It did not look good. Okay. So I'm going to get into the amount of time that the defense is looking for ultimately, and the amount of time that the prosecution is looking for. The judge has said, though, that he hasn't really made any determination here or there. Like, from reading between the lines, from what he's saying, it looks like he's trying to say, look, I'm willing to listen to everybody on what they're saying and come to a conclusion as to the amount of time that he should get. To me, I think that he is definitely going to get time. He's definitely going to get time. The reason why I think he's going to get time is, and y'all tell me if you think my reasoning doesn't make any sense. The reason why I think that he's definitely going to get time is, if he wasn't going to give him time, why not give him bond? And he's citing his reason for not giving him bond as the fact that he feels that he is a danger to the community. So if you're a danger to the community now, right? What makes you not a danger to the community 3 or 4 months from now, child? You're still a danger to the community. Nothing has changed in 3 or 4 months. So he didn't have any intention of letting him out today. And I don't think he has intention of giving him just time served or probation or whatever in a few months from now. I absolutely do not think that he is going to do that. Okay. So this is just my opinion. All right. What he did say was that Diddy will absolutely receive credit for time served. And he set Friday, October 3rd for the date of the sentencing. And that was going to be at 10 a.m. So at this point, let me tell you something right now. About Mark Agnifilo, okay? Listen, I've had mixed feelings about him with certain things back and forth or whatever, but when I tell you this man definitely will go to bat for you. I mean, look, these lawyers are being paid an insane amount of money. So they better really do that. But it's just like, he don't have no type of shame. Like, he does not care. Yo, let me tell you really quickly, okay? So he's pushing for, Agnifilo gets up and he's there, he's very expressive with his hands, and he's leaning forward, and he's like really, really like imploring the judge. And he's just like, look, I'm, please, I'm just trying. I think it would be best for, to get this expedited sentencing, basically saying that he doesn't want Diddy to have to wait until October for the sentencing. Let's get this done now. And the judge is basically like, look, these pre-sentencing reports take time. And then there's a probation report, right? And from what I understand from, watching a couple of videos and seeing, various lawyers speaking, and just like from common sense, right? The probation report is basically where they kind of like go into things like about you, right? So like, your substance issues with your family, employment, this, that, and the third, to try to see, what type of sentencing would be fair, because you're going to get out on probation, right? Eventually you're going to get out on probation. So it's not just like, okay, we're going to just, hey, give you this time or whatever. No, like, a lot of thought goes into the sentencing, right? And then, people on the defense team and people on the prosecution team have their guidelines as to what they think is fair. Obviously, people on the defense team are going to think, a sentencing on the lower end is fair, and the opposite for the prosecution. Okay. Now, the defense wants something more along the lines of 21 to 27 months. And remember, he's going to get credit for time served, which is about 10 months. So you can subtract the 10 months from that 21 to 27 months. Okay. The prosecution wants something more along the lines of 51 to 61 months, right? And this is under the guidelines that are there. Personally, I believe that the judge is going to go somewhere in the middle of that. Okay. Shawnee, I think the judge wants him to do a little time. I do too. I absolutely do too. Okay. I do too. Please follow me if you haven't already. Don't forget to do that. Okay. All right. So let me continue to go. Okay. Because there's some more tea here. Okay. So what they do is what Mark Agnifilo does is talk about previous cases. Okay. Where people were accused of things involving, sex work. Okay. And they were not held, um, full on bail, on bond or whatever. Their bond was granted. Okay. Um, so this is a Mann Act precedent. Because so remember, what he's charged with is the Mann Act. Okay. He needs to do a lot of time. This is sickening. Is 61 months the max? Yeah. For the prosecution, they want 51 to 61 months. This is what they want. I guess so. I'm assuming the 61 is the max that they're looking for. Okay. Now, when I Googled the max for each count, it was 10 years. But the prosecution isn't even asking for that. Okay. Because that would make 20 years altogether. And they're not even asking for that. Okay. So there was an issue with a PIMP. Okay. And he had, people who were working for him, okay, that were P prostitutes, okay, and this man made upwards of over $1 million for this type of work, okay, and he was found guilty and he was out pending sentence. There was another situation where minors were involved, okay. That person was out pending sentence. There was a situation with a sitting governor of New York, which we all know was Eliot Spitzer, honey. Remember all that scandal? If you guys are, anybody here is from the East Coast, that's in the comments. Anybody here on Facebook or YouTube is from this side over here in New York. Everybody remembers what happened to Eliot Spitzer, honey. Okay. That was a hot mess. Mark Agnifilo made the point that the SDNY didn't even go after Eliot Spitzer. They didn't even go after him. Okay? They didn't even go after him. And he was out pending sentence as well. Okay? Not pending sentence. He didn't go out to him. No, not go after him. There was another person though. There was another case that was that this person was out pending sentence. The situation with Eliot Spitzer, they didn't even go after him. Pardon me, I'm a little delirious right now. I'm very tired. Okay. So those are 4 instances. Okay. The situation with the PIMP, the one with minors involved, another incident with another person who was involved in the trafficking. Okay. And then the situation with Eliot Spitzer. And in those 4 instances, again, Eliot Spitzer was never even, they didn't even go after him in the first place. In those other 3 instances, the people were out pending sentence. And I think the one with the minors involved was kind of crazy, because it's like, bro, like, how are you allowing somebody who was trafficking minors to be out pending sentence. Like, that's gross. It was at this moment that I was just like, yo, Agnifilo is really doing it up. Like, he just like really was just so passionate about it. I was thinking to myself, like, yeah, that actually does make sense, right? And he looks at the judge and he says, I feel like I see a little glimmer of light. You know what I mean? And of course, everybody started laughing, right? Yo, he does not have any shame. Like, he does not have any shame. He was like, I think I see a little glimmer of light there. And it's just like, you say that to the judge. But anyway, um, so he said in those cases there was no discussion of detention. Okay. And he says, this is Agnifilo. He says, look, Diddy's case is unique and exceptional because Diddy is a user of the escorts, okay, as opposed to someone who is profiting from the escorts, okay. This is what Agnifilo is saying. He's really, really fighting for him, really, really fighting for him. But honey, when I tell you, this is when the judge flipped the script, and I was gagging. I'm not even going to hold you. So do you remember when Mark Agnifilo was giving his closing argument, right? And he started talking about, you know, very, very early on in his closing argument, he used the words, he said, we own, he said, he talked about the DV and the violence and stuff like that. And his words were, we own that. We own that. Okay. Well, that's what the judge said to Mark Agnifilo, okay, basically turned his own words against him. And then he started to quote, okay, he started to quote, like word for word, verbatim, what Mark Agnifilo said during his closing argument, okay. And um, it was just so crazy to hear, because Mark Agnifilo basically was like, yeah, we know he's a violent person, right? So the judge is basically saying, like, if you're telling me, you're his defense attorneys, you told everyone that he is this person, and we own that. How could you now argue that he's not a danger when up until last year, June of last year, he had this incident? Okay. Um, you know, Now remember, the incident that happened, Jane was the one who, you know, started it. Okay, I don't want to go too far into it, but we know what happened with Jane. Diddy was sitting at the bar area, or the dinette, or whatever the heck that was. He was sitting there, and he bent down to tie his shoe, and then Jane came and took his head and, hit his head on the countertop, okay, or the bar, whatever it was. And then Diddy went and, you know, decided to do what he did and stuff like that. Mark Agnifilo was kind of trying to act like it was self-defense, but do I think that it was appropriate for Jane to do that? Absolutely not. I don't think you should put your hands on anybody, especially when the person didn't put their hands on you. Okay. However, we're not going to act like he didn't drag it. Okay. We're not going to act like he didn't drag it. And this was one of the things that the prosecution said later on. Okay. I don't know if it was wise for Agnifilo to bring that incident up. Um, I don't think it was wise. Um, but Mark Agnifilo brought that incident up because he was saying that it was a while back that it happened. Okay. I don't think it was a good idea for him to bring that up. Okay. I don't think it was a good idea for him to bring that up. So after the judge spoke, right, Mark Agnifilo said that he was in a batterers program, okay, a batterers program, and that Jane helped to write a letter to help him to get into this batterers program or something along those lines. Then he said that Diddy specifically came to New York to surrender. He relinquished his passport in July of 2024. And then 7 months after that, he was arrested. He also went into, talking about, uh, you know, Diddy doing remarkable things in his life. And he did admit that he had flaws, but he's in the process of working on himself. And he's a model prisoner with a spotless record. Okay. And he said he's actually a remarkable prisoner with no disciplinary issues. And I wrote in parentheses that Agnifilo is going hard. And he really, 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 really was going hard. Okay. And then he says we should trust him. He will not flee. And some people in the courtroom were laughing when he said we should trust him. You know. Anyway. So he brings up the message. Remember the happy birthday message that Mia wrote? Oh, the sentencing hearing. The sentencing hearing, we don't know yet. But I'm going to get into that, Gingerbread. The sentencing hearing was supposed to be in October, but Mark Agnifilo wants an expedited hearing. He doesn't want Diddy to have to wait until October. So on Tuesday, they're going to meet at 2:00 in the afternoon to kind of to try to determine, if they can get this expedited and stuff like that. Okay. So, but yeah, there were a couple of people snickering when he said we should trust him. Then he brings up the message. You guys remember the birthday message that Mia wrote? Okay. And then when I was listening to Mark Agnifilo, that was the day I was in the main courtroom. I listened to Mark Agnifilo, read Mia's note, the birthday note, right? And he seemed to get choked up. And I remember there was a very large content creator sitting next to me. And I leaned over and I asked him, I said, is he crying? And he was like, I don't know. Like, it kind of seemed like he was crying. But I was just like, nah, I don't think would he cry? Right? Like, would he really do that? Because he sounded like he was getting choked up. Well, honey, today, when he was talking about the letter, he said, I could barely get through it. I could barely get through reading that letter because it was just so, impactful. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I wasn't going crazy. Like, he really was crying. So the dude I was sitting next to today, I was like, yo, I knew I kind of heard him crying. And then the guy was like, yeah, child, fake tears. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but I was just like, yo, he really was getting choked up reading the letter. Anyway, honey, listen. Again, Mark Agnifilo was going super hard trying to get this man to come home. And again, the judge had already made his decision to not grant him bond, but he just kept going and going and going. So then, this was the part, okay? He brings up Kim Porter and the fact that he said his children are here, and he said, I'm not trying to tug on anybody's heartstrings. Bro, yes, you are. You're absolutely trying to tug on everyone's heartstrings, okay? But he was like, yeah, I'm not trying to. Do me a favor, share this live, because I'm going to be on for about another 20 minutes. So share the live and also follow me. And like the live if you like it, right? So that will help me out, and follow me as well. Don't forget to do that. Okay. So listen, So he was like, I'm not trying to pull on anybody's heartstrings, but his kids are here. You know what I mean? His kids are here in the courtroom. And he said, two of his kids' mom is no longer here. Honey, listen. He was like, two of his kids' mom is no longer here. So he basically is bringing up the fact that Kim Porter is no longer here. Okay. And it was at this moment, and I'm not saying anything, I'm not implying anything. I'm not saying that that particular thing about Kim Porter has anything to do with the way that the prosecutors were looking. But it was, at this point, he had been going so long that the prosecutors were like looking super annoyed. Okay. And here's the thing, I think that they were already annoyed because they clearly dropped the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't get the RICO that they really, really wanted. Let's face it, that's what they really wanted. So they were probably pissed off at that, right? Then he's up there giving this impassioned plea for several minutes. And, I mean, we're all entertained, but they weren't. You know what I'm saying? They're just like, look, hurry up. Like, they just looked like visibly annoyed at this point. Okay. So, Mark Agnifilo again says that he was a user of these, you know, P prostitutes, right, in their services, and that his situation was a unique and exceptional situation. He used those words several times, unique and exceptional. And then remember earlier when he was like, I'm not seeing a glimmer of anything, do I see a little glimmer of anything? And then at this point, he says, well, you let me speak, so there might be a little bit of hope. He said that. He said, you let me speak this long, so there might be a little bit of hope. Listen to me. Like, he really, like, he has the biggest cojones, like, in the whole entire world. Like, you're here, you're in federal court. The entire world is watching. We were laughing. I'm not going to lie. Like, we were entertained. Like, we were, like, laughing because he was just like, well, you let me speak this long, so like, what do you anyway, child? So that was that. So then he said, and he said that Mr. Combs would like to say something, but then like, you know, that didn't happen. It kind of like was like a like super abrupt, and the judge, no, I think Maureen Comey got up and was just like, basically got up to speak at this point. Okay. Now remember, at this point, like I said, Mark Agnifilo had been speaking for a long, long, long time. Prosecutors are looking real, real annoyed at this point. They're not having a good day. Okay. And then I think it was just getting like too much because it's like, bro, like you were up here talking mad long. And then now you're like, yeah. And by the way, my man's over here. He wants to say something too. It's just like, no, 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 no. Okay. So she got up and she said, the only thing that's exceptional is his wealth and his brazenness. Okay. And she said that he's been extremely violent against multiple witnesses. And she brought up the situation with Jane, and she said that it was not self-defense. And she kind of, basically went into what I said earlier. She didn't say he was dragging it, obviously, but she basically said that yes, Jane did initiate the altercation, but he went on to like just, go crazy, right? We know what happened with that situation, okay? Um and then she said that it was extremely brazen for him to have substances, and this is where she said that he was calling Jane when, for the FO when he was arrested, okay? And this is when I was just gagging because I always wanted to know who it was that he was calling when he got it, like, for the FO, because we know that he had all the oil, he had the light machine, the colored light machine or whatever, and he had all the everything set up when they, went to go raid the hotel room. But it was in fact Jane who he was trying to set that FO up with, honey. So, listen to me. This was something funny that he said, that Mark Agnifilo said, right? So he's still kind of trying to, you know, still try to continue with this bail package, still trying. He was not giving up. He was not giving up. He was still talking. And you know what he said? I think he was so annoyed right this at this moment. He was like really, really pissed off. Do you know what he said? He said, dealing with people like Comey make me appreciate juries. Dealing with people like Comey make me appreciate juries. This is what he said. Okay. So I think at this moment, because he was like really, really like upset because he didn't get his way. But I mean, look, he was trying. He was trying. He's supposed to try. He's supposed to try. These lawyers are getting paid millions and millions and millions of dollars. So you know what? I would expect them to try everything that they could try. But that part right there was just a little, I feel like he kind of went a little too far there with that. You know what I mean? Like imploring the judge to do certain things or whatever, and like the little other little jokes and stuff here and there. That was, that was okay. But that part right there, I feel like he kind of went a little too far with that, because I felt that way. And then there were people in the courtroom that I was in that was just like, ooh, like that. It was like that type of thing. So if that was the feeling in the overflow room, I'm sure that was the feeling in the main courtroom too. Like you kind of bordering on being disrespectful now. Okay. And then all of that for uh Judge Supermanian to say, basically the bail is still denied. Like he's not going home right now. That's it. Period. Okay. So July 8th at 2 p.m. is when they're going to do this hearing, okay, um, to see if they can have like this expedited sentencing, okay. This is going to be a remote hearing. I really wanted to. Who's confused? Let me pay attention to these comments here. Who's confused? Me. So this is where they're going to decide, about this trying to get this expedited situation. Okay. Now, as I said, oh no, not me. Okay, good, thank goodness. Oof. I mean, sometimes I do get a little confused. I'm not even going to hold you. I definitely do, and I get a little sidetracked. Especially if I'm tired. I really, really do. Okay. So, look, like I said earlier in the live, Judge Supermanian says he made it a point to say that he does not take any position on what he's going to consider. Basically, saying he's open. Okay. You can still go ahead and share the video. I mean, I'm going to be on here for about maybe like a 10-15 minutes. You can go ahead and share it, and please like the video, and also follow me too. Okay, that definitely helps me out a lot. You know what I mean? So yeah, so he's open, and again, the defense wants anywhere from between 21 and 27 months, and the prosecution wants anywhere between 51 and 61 months. Okay. And I from what I can see, I feel like the judge is open to, someone in the chat earlier said something to the effect of, they don't think that the judge is really trying to give him like mad time like that, like, the whole full 20 years. I do not get that impression either. Just the fact that he said, look, I haven't taken any position on what I'm going to consider, basically means that look, I'm going to listen to both sides. Yes, I do believe he definitely wants him to do some time. He definitely wants him to do some time. But he's saying, look, I'm open. You know what I mean? I'm definitely open. You know what I mean? So, and like I said before, he's going to give him time, because if he wasn't, then he would have let him out on bond. If he's a threat to society or whatever, the community, today in June, he's not going to be a threat to the community in October. You know what I'm saying? No, like, you know what I'm saying? So he's definitely going to get some time. He's absolutely going to get some time. Okay. He's going to get some time for sure, for sure. Now, I don't think it's again. I don't think it's going to be no 20 years or nothing like that. But it's definitely going to be, he's going to get a few years. And don't forget, by that time, he would have been behind, bars for about a year, because he's been there for like 10 months now. So if they get this expedited sentencing, the regular one that was scheduled was in October 3rd. So that's like 4 months from now. An expedited one, probably 2 months or whatever. So now we're looking at a year that he was already there. So if he gets a few years after that, you understand what I'm saying? He's 55, so maybe he'll be 60 or something like that, or 59 or whatever. He's still, it's not like he's going to be 70 or 75 or something like that, right? So, I don't think that in the grand scheme of things, it's really, really bad for him. I don't think that it's really, really bad for him. He was facing life, essentially. He was facing never, ever coming home ever for the rest of his life. Okay. And it's looking like it's not going to be too bad for him, but he's definitely going to be serving some time for sure, for sure. All right. He said, I hope he gets at least 10 years. Did he get bond? No, Kathy, he didn't get bond. There was a bond hearing today, and Mark Agnifilo went hard in the paint, hard, but was not able to get him that thing. Let me tell you something. If anything were to happen to me, I would wish that I had a lawyer like Mark Agnifilo going hard for me. I really wish that I would. He tried his best. He tried his best. He really, really did. But, at the end of the day, it's not enough. It wasn't enough. So let me tell you really quickly. So I'm just scrolling here. Okay. So this was one of the things that Judge Subramanian said when he was addressing Mark Agnifilo. Okay. And this is basically what I just told you, but this is like the full quote. So he said, "You full-throatedly in your closing argument told the jury that there was violence here, and DV is violence." He said, "You said this is a case that did involve violence." And he said that Agnifilo responded that there's only been evidence of one instance of that since 2018, and that was in June 2024, altercation with Jane. And remember, I said just a few minutes ago that I don't think it was a good idea for him to bring that up. Okay. So, this is what the judge said to him. You know what I mean? And he said, "You full-throatedly said that." Okay. Prosecutor Maureen Comey says the judge is correct in his decision to keep Sean Combs in detention, calling him an extremely violent man with a dangerous temper. He said, "What's exceptional about Combs is his wealth, his violence, and his brazenness. He's an extremely violent man with an extraordinarily dangerous temper who has shown no remorse and no regret for his multiple victims." Okay. And then it says defense attorney Mark Agnifilo appealed to the judge one more time, saying in part, "Listening to Miss Comey makes me appreciate that we have jurors, honey. Juries." That was shade. That was shade. Okay. But look, I would expect for him to be upset, right? Okay. I would expect for him to be upset. So, yeah. So that is that. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about what happened today? Did I hear anything about the witnesses sending letters? Yes, I did. I read one of the letters earlier. I read Cassie Ventura's letter earlier. I want to see if I can get my hands on Deontay Nash's letter. Let me see if I can. You know what I don't like doing? I don't like scrolling while I'm on live, because Like I'm completely taking my attention away from what's happening here, and it just like looks weird that I'm not paying attention. But I'm gonna see if I can find it um real quick. Impact letter. I did the letter or statement. Let me see if I can find it. Okay, is this it here? Okay, this is it here. It's blurry as hell, child. I don't even know if I can read this. And this one actually is more. This one is more. This one has more in it than the one that. This one has more in it than the one that Cassie wrote. Let me see if I can get a better. A better. Um. Oh, if my opinion. Wait, hold on a second. My opinion. No judgment. Was he arrogant today? No, he was not. He was not. He looked really, really hopeful right up until the judge said that word denied. And he literally looked and did not, no, I'm the one who did this. He was looking like kind of writing, and kind of like looking a little bit. And the judge said denied. And he turned and did just like that, literally. He was genuinely shocked. He really, really, really thought he was going home today. He did. He really did. Let me see if this one is a little clearer. Let me see if I can see this here. Because this one was more involved. All right, let's see if I can read this one here. Okay. And now here's the thing. You could make the argument that Cassie has security because she has had security. Cassie's had security for a long time. She's had security. I don't know how many people are involved in her security detail, but she's had security for quite some time. Okay, so like she just literally has to pay for security all the time. I don't know if Deontay Nash has security or how he, like, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. But at any rate, this is what he wrote to Judge Subramanian. So he said, "Dear Judge Subramanian, I'm writing to express my grave concern over the prospect of Sean Combs being released from custody. While I appreciate the fairness you have shown throughout the proceeding, I feel compelled to be unequivocal about the danger he poses to the public and to the individuals who have risked everything by coming forward. Mr. Combs has a long, well-documented history of violent, coercive, and retaliatory behavior. Over the years, he has repeatedly escaped meaningful accountability, and each time, this has only reinforced his sense of impunity. If he is released now, I have no doubt that he will see it as yet another license to continue intimidating, threatening, and harming people who challenge or expose him. Many of us have firsthand knowledge of the fear he instills in those around him. I can say without hesitation that he is a serious and immediate threat to victims, witnesses, and the broader community. His pattern of violence, particularly while engaged in the trafficking of individuals for prostitution, combined with unchecked substance abuse, makes it clear that he is not ready to re enter society safely or responsibly. To release Mr. Combs without substantial consequence would undermine the integrity of this process and send a dangerous message that wealth and influence can shield someone indefinitely from accountability. It will also endanger those who cooperated with this investigation under subpoena who are already living in fear of retaliation. I urge you in the strongest possible terms to prioritize the safety of victims and witnesses over any consideration of leniency. Mr. Combs has had countless opportunities to change, and he's chosen instead to escalate his harmful conduct. Allowing him back into the community now would be a profound mistake. Thank you for your time and your commitment to protecting the public from those who repeatedly demonstrate that they are unwilling to respect the law. Respectfully, Deontay Nash. Let me ask you something. Let me ask you guys something, okay? Let me ask you something. What do you think about that, these letters, these impact statements? Do you think that they weighed on Judge Supermanian's decision to not, Diddy is just a distraction? Hold on a second. He's a distraction. Y'all, we are at war with immigration problems. No, Melon, you're absolutely right about that. But I definitely think it's possible for us to focus on more than one thing at a time. You know what I'm saying? There are lots of things happening, but I don't think that we can't discuss this situation. My cat is here. Say hi to everybody. You're gonna have to go over here though. Okay. But yes, we do have a lot of other things, to be thinking about. But we can focus on more than one thing at a time, right? This is a this is I said this earlier in one of my lives. Like, this is pop culture. This is, something that is, he was Diddy is a gigantic, huge figure. Like, how could we not talk about him? People are going to talk about him. You know what I mean? But of course, we can't forget about the immigration issue and all these other. We can't forget about those things either. Those, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is just one, right? This is just one of many issues. Okay, one of many issues. When I get up tomorrow, I'm going to go to work. When I go to the supermarket, everything's going to be super expensive. That's something else. That's another issue, right? I mean, it's it is what it is. But yeah, I personally believe that, judging by the wording of the judge's response, with the exception of, basically reading Mark Agnifillo's words like directly back to him verbatim, I do think that those impact statements weighed heavily on his opinion to not release him. I do, especially Deontay Nash's one. Now, Cassie's one, that was, that was whatever it was. It was like really short, but this one was like really, really detailed and kind of long. You know what I'm saying? He said, I adored this man, saw him on Broadway with a Tony, saw him decide clothes. Oh, you talking about Deontay? Sorry. You talking about Deontay Nash? Our food has been expensive for several years. It has. It definitely has. But I feel like it's gotten worse over the course of the past couple of years, though. It's very, very bad. What I do personally, though, I go to Aldi. There's a few stores that I go to. Aldi. There's another store, LIDL, that just opened not too far from me. I go there. And I usually get things, for a better price. I don't know if Aldi is available where you guys are at, but Aldi is, you said it's skyrocketed since less farmers are scared to go to work. Yes. Yeah, Aldi. Orange juice is now $14. Which orange juice? Probably Tropicana. I don't do conversations with people outside of New York. Oh, listen, Lidal. I'm so glad you said that, because I was wondering. I just knew I was pronouncing it wrong. Okay. I knew I was pronouncing it wrong. I just was like, I didn't even bother to ask anybody. I was just like, little Liddell. Okay. Listen to me. I love that store. I love Aldi. Liddell. Okay, I gotta tell my daughter too, because she says little too, honey. She was like, we're gonna go to Little today, so I gotta let her know. So, but I like that store. It reminds me of, what's up, Jamel? It reminds me of like Aldi with more treats and snacks, with more delicious treats and snacks. Okay. I really like that story. Did he still take it? Do I think the jurors were paid off? Okay, no, I don't. Listen, I don't. I don't know. I don't think so though. Like there was a little bit of speculation because during the trial, right? Um, you know, there were people who were like observing certain things that he was doing. So he would write like a note to one of his attorneys, and then it would seem like the attorney would be text messaging somebody, and then you know what I mean, like certain things, so but this is just speculation, and people are going to just be looking at stuff and maybe overthinking things, right? So but is there any like actual proof of anything? No. And this is the thing too, if he paid off the jurors, right, then why would they even find him? Why would they unanimously find him guilty on any of the charges when there's a chance that the judge could give him the max? You know what I'm saying? Ultimately, the decision, the amount of time that he's going to get is ultimately going to be decided by the judge. Even with these recommendations and speaking with the defense and the prosecution, and go back and forth, and he's saying, oh, I haven't made any decision as to whatever yet. I'm open to listening to things. The decision ultimately lies with him. So that would be taking too much of a risk, in my opinion. How did they come to a decision on count 1 in an hour, deadlock 4 p.m., decision 10 a.m. today? That's a great question, Nicole. That's a great question. But, a lot can happen when you know what I'm saying, go lay down, go take a, go home, take a shower. Once you've been sitting there talking for several hours, right? You're talking for several hours. You're talking for several hours. Maybe you're going back and forth. Maybe you're annoyed with somebody. You said FOH, Howard Johnson. Okay, I don't know what you're saying FOH to, the whole live or just, I don't know. So you could be a little bit more specific with that comment that you put. But yeah, so they were kind of going back and forth for a long time, several hours. Maybe they were annoyed, like, look, we can't figure this out, like, we just can't. So we know what we're going to do on those last 4 counts, but we can't deal with this right now. And the judge was basically like, go back in there, go do what you got to do. And then 5 o'clock hit, they went home, took a shower, had something to eat, maybe had a cocktail or something, went to sleep, woke up and was like, something, maybe he's not guilty on something. Because remember, the note that was handed to the jury said that people on both sides were unpersuadable. So there were clearly people that wanted to convict on some of those RICO charges and some that did not. Okay, there were, but they went and they got a night's sleep or whatever, came back the next day, they sat and talked for a little bit, and then they all unanimously decided that they weren't going to find him guilty on any of those RICO charges. But yesterday there were some people who wanted to find him guilty on some of those RICO charges. You know what I mean? Luckily for him, they decided, no, unanimously, we're just, we're going to acquit him on that first count. Luckily for him, because that was the one that was going to really send him away. So now at least there's a chance for him, to get, lesser time. Listen, if today was any indication, Mark Agnifilo is going to fight tooth and nail to get him the least amount of time possible. He's going to try. And they're going to have a year under their belt already. So whatever it is going to be minus 1 year. Okay. So. Thank you, Vincent. I see the hearts. I'm seeing all of these like things in the thing. I see the hearts and I see like little figures and stuff like that. So thank you so much for people who are sending these gestures. I really appreciate it. Glamorous, you said, was I in court? You said, enough of me? Enough of me what? Was I in court? Yes, I was in court today. I was in the overflow room, though. I wasn't. Oh, okay. Who am I? Nobody. Do I even have a job? Why are you broadcasting? People ask ridiculous questions. My opinion doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. My opinion doesn't matter. I don't know. You're here. Oh, it doesn't matter. I mean, you're here, so I matter at least a little bit, right? It matters a little bit. I don't know if I don't know if I like take the time to communicate and go back and forth with people who I don't care about. You know what I'm saying? Like if I don't care about something, like I don't post about it. I don't talk about it. I mean I'm not going to talk about it if I don't care about it. I'm not going to waste time talking about it. So that's just always been weird to me when people comment about things they don't care about. That's very strange. But okay, Joe. Um, Thank you, Miss Fun Size. Um, so yeah, that's about it. Does anybody else have any more questions about what happened? If you haven't followed me, thank you, Rod. If you haven't followed me yet, please follow me. Um, I'm definitely gonna go live again tomorrow. Okay. Um, Definitely gonna go live again tomorrow. And there's a few more things that I want to discuss about what happened, like just in general, like with the case in general. But I don't want to start now because I have to go to sleep because I have to wake up in the morning. Do I think Diddy should have been guilty on all five? No, I don't. The RICO situation, there were parts of the RICO that I did agree with, but other parts I was a little bit wishy-washy on. If I'm going to court on Tuesday, Regina, no, because remember that hearing, that hearing is going to be um, a remote hearing. I was hoping, I'm not even gonna lie, I was hoping that they were gonna do that hearing in person because I like to see, them go sort of like go back and forth. You know what I mean? Um, yeah. So they said that. So this is I wasn't there. Remember, I got there a little bit late. I got there after the verdict was read, like about 20 minutes after the verdict was read, and then by the time I was able to get into the courthouse, all of that had passed. But I did hear that he did sort of break down, and there were court drawings that where he was kind of like you know on the chair, like with his knees on the floor, and so that did happen. What time am I on tomorrow? Um, Tomorrow is Thursday. I'll probably be on a little bit earlier, maybe around maybe 7 or 8. Okay. Anyone found KK after her statement she vanished? Yeah, that's another thing. Now listen, they didn't get him on the RICO. So how they didn't get him on the RICO, so the likelihood to me of them really going after um of him really going after KK doesn't seem very high to me. If I was a judge, I don't want to hear from him now because he got denied bail. I don't want you to hear from him now because he got denied bail. Um, Remember, he wanted to address the court. He wanted to address the judge, and I feel like Mark Agnifilo was literally just like about to let him say something, and then, um, you know, uh, um, Comey got up and basically just like, you know, did that. Can the prosecution appeal on that major charge? I don't know the answer to that. Your grandparents worked in my grandparents' fields. What? Remember, this is somebody who doesn't care, right? Remember, y'all? He said he doesn't care, honey. So he is there still typing, trying to make somebody upset, child. So anyway, um, shout out to Cyclone in Coney Island. How do I feel about the verdict? I always said that I didn't feel he was going to get convicted on everything, but I did think that he was going to get convicted on some things. So I'm not surprised by the verdict. I didn't think he was going to be accounted for. I didn't think that he was going to be acquitted of everything. I never thought that. So I'm not super surprised. Do I want him to spend the rest of his life in prison or anything like that? No, I don't. But I do, think that he deserves some, some jail time. Absolutely. So I know, yeah. Oh, thank you, True Aries. Listen, True Aries, guess what my sign is? Just take a wild guess. Thank you, Duchess. How much time will he do? Well, okay, so Aries, yes, Aries. I'm an Aries too. Um, what about all the victims? What about the children? It's sad. So yeah, so I'm not sure exactly how much time he'll get. I'm gonna just read this off really, really quickly, and then I'm gonna go. Um, so the defense wants between 21 and 27 months, and the prosecution wants uh, 51 to 61 months. Okay, so they'll kind of go back and forth and try to negotiate and stuff like that and see what he gets. Okay, so look, it's 1:30. I have to teach in the morning. I have to teach in the morning, and then I have therapy after my morning class. I usually work out a little bit after my class. I go on the treadmill and do a few miles or whatever, and then I have my therapy session. We all could use some therapy, honey. I've had this same therapist for like 3 years. So, but we do Zoom. So I have a therapy session, and then I have some sessions and stuff, PT sessions after, and then in the evening I'm gonna come back and do. I'm gonna go live again, but it'll be a little bit earlier. Okay, not as late as this. Yes, Cassie did beef up her security. What was the verdict? The verdict was um, uh, acquitted on 3 counts and guilty on 2. Okay. If I'm saying that he got 2 years for sure, I think that he will most likely, at the very least, get something like that. Probably a couple of years more, but I think 2 years is on the lower end. But I don't think that. Oh, thank you so much, Tanya. I don't think that he's going to get 20 years or anything like. I don't nothing like that. I really don't think he's going to get anything like that. No, Cherry Blossom. They denied the bail. Mark Agnafilo tried super hard. He really, really went extra, extra hard, but they did not give it to him. But listen, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this video up because I'm live streaming on YouTube and also I'm live streaming on YouTube and also on Facebook as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in half because it says that I'm at an hour and a half now. So I'm going to cut it in half because the max time that you can put on TikTok is an hour. So it'll be 45 minutes each, and I'm going to cut it and put it here. So anybody who is watching here will get to see it here on TikTok. So I'm going to do that right now before I go to bed. So if you want to go back and check it out, it'll be here. So I'm going to do that right now, and then I got to go to sleep. Okay. But listen, thank you so much, everybody here on YouTube and Facebook. And thank you, everybody here on TikTok. Okay. Clearly, I do, honey. You still here. But yeah, thank you very much for everything. I really appreciate all your engagement, even, people who say stupid stuff, because you're just attracting more attention to the thing. So thank you so much, sweetie. Mwah, I appreciate it. And I will see you guys. I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay. Don't forget to please give me a follow. And yeah, I'm going to cut this up and post it here so you guys can watch it when you get a chance. Okay. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much. Okay. So thank you guys here on oh, hi Lance. Thank you. I'm going to cut this up, and this is going to be in full here on YouTube. But one thing I noticed is that like people on TikTok really don't really be on Facebook and stuff like that, and like maybe YouTube but not Facebook so much. It's really weird. Like TikTok is a whole nother vibe. So I'm going to cut this in half and post it on TikTok, but you guys are going to get to see it. You can just rewind back and see or whatever. So, but I'm going to definitely go live again tomorrow and discuss more stuff. But I just wanted to just do this today so I could talk about what happened specifically today. This is such a fascinating case. Like, I'm still gagged over this. It's crazy, like how everything turned out. But anyway, we'll talk about it again tomorrow. Thanks so much for everybody who has shared the video, who, you know, liked the video and everything like that. I really, really appreciate it. And I'll definitely see you guys tomorrow. Okay. Talk to you later.